Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at Easter eggs and other secrets from The Legend of Zelda that weren't known by most players for a long time. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Minus World, The Legend of Zelda. The original Super Mario Bros. Has a famous level dubbed the Minus World, a glitch and an impossible-to-beat stage that was never meant to be seen by players, but can be reached within the game if you know how. However, a similar area in the first Legend of Zelda game wasn't widely known about by players until 2019. YouTuber Skellux decided to go digging into some NES classics to see what other Minus Worlds were out there. The one in Zelda is much harder to reach than Mario's, hence why it took so long to be found, as Skellux had to dig through code to reach it. And as you can tell, it's a fair bit messier. Fashion with a Purpose, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. In Ocarina of Time, players gain access to different clothing items that change their appearance. While young Link has his masks, adult Link gets 2 new tunics. But there are interesting alternate uses and effects that took a long time for us to realize. For some reason, the clothing and lipstick of the Gerudo warriors adult Link fights change based on the color of the tunic he's wearing. Young Link's masks are a bit more interesting. Link won't be attacked by Keese if he's wearing the skull mask, nor will Stall children spawn at night while he's wearing the bunny hood. The Keaton mask, a reference to Pikachu, is so popular among children that the Death Mountain Gate guard will bar Link's entry should he refuse to sell it to him. The Night Sky, The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. In any other Zelda game, you might not spend too much time looking up at the sky. If you did in Majora's Mask, it was likely too hard to tear your eyes away from the moon's haunting visage to notice this small Easter egg. You see, other than constellations, the placement of the stars in the night sky can vary depending on what you name your file. Why Nintendo chose to implement such a feature is unknown to us. It may have had an intended use or greater purpose before it was scrapped, and it wasn't included in the 3DS remake. The Hidden Grave, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. The Hyrule Castle found in Twilight Princess is a huge, sprawling structure with more than a few secrets. Using Wolf Link's sensibility in the graveyard, itself hidden behind a wall, will reveal the spirits of dead soldiers, similar to how he can see spirits in other sections of the game. However, if you use this ability near a tree in the middle of the graveyard, you might notice some pointing towards the ground. Placing a bomb here reveals a switch, which opens a door to some rupees and a torch. Link must light it to stop the rain, light 2 more torches, and guide 2 owl statues over to another area to get a small key. This key actually isn't required to beat the dungeon, instead giving you access to a treasure trove of rupees and supplies before the final fight. A Helping Heart, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. In the majority of Zelda boss fights, players can find breakable pots or cuttable grass to refill on hearts. But for the final fight with Ganon in Wind Waker, there are no extra hearts to be found, or so it seems. This game introduced the grappling hook, which, in addition to letting Link swing to new areas and pull treasure chests out of the sea, can snag items from enemies. In a similar fashion, using the grappling hook on Zelda as she helps you fight Ganon will give you some health. A nice little Easter egg, and beneficial for players who didn't come prepared. The Offended Shopkeep, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Zelda minigames are all pretty much approached the same way. Pay the attendant, do your best, and maybe you'll win a prize. But there's a humorous reaction with one of the shopkeepers in Ocarina of Time that most of us probably didn't pick up on. The shooting gallery in Hyrule's Market, or Kakariko Village in the future, can earn Link upgrades to his ammo carrying capacity. However, if you start the game and don't hit a single target, the shopkeep will tell Link he doesn't have to play if he doesn't want to. Slightly offended, he'll then refuse to meet Link's eye, and only say the same thing if you try speaking to him again. Hidden Credits Song, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past and Four Swords. Music is a huge part of Zelda's legacy, but there's one track many fans have likely never heard, given the list of requirements it takes to hear it. The piece we're referring to can only be heard during the credits in the European version of A Link to the Past on Game Boy Advance. That's not all, though. You must first have beaten the Four Swords campaign included in this re-release, which could only be played with another friend via the GBA link cable. You'd also need to beat the Palace of the Four Sword, a new optional dungeon unlocked after beating Ganon in the base game. Only after doing that did European players get treated to some original music. Baito the PartTimer, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Nintendo likes to have a lot of fun with naming NPCs. Many of them are puns, like how basically everyone in Skyloft is named after birds. One that completely went over our heads, because we don't speak Japanese, is Baito from Wind Waker. After Link spends a bit of time on Dragon Roost Island and helps sort some mail for money, Baito will eventually appear at the Rito home to answer a part-time job listing. Later, Link can show off his skills to Baito, which will earn him a piece of heart. Funny thing is, Baito comes from the Japanese word arubaito, which literally means part-time job. Spectacle Rock's Piece of Heart, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Finding this piece of heart is by no means difficult. It sits atop a small peak inside Death Mountain Crater, and Link must use a magic bean to reach it. However, what a lot of us didn't realize is that the piece of heart's placement is a reference to A Link to the Past. Spectacle Rock is an established location in many Zelda games, two identical mountain peaks side by side that are even in the Breath of the Wild era. They're also in A Link to the Past, and hold a piece of heart in the exact same spot. As this place isn't explicitly called Spectacle Rock in Ocarina of Time, instead just being inside Death Mountain Crater, we didn't realize the reference for quite a while. The Hidden Lullaby, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Zelda's Lullaby is one of the most well-known tunes from the series. It's so famous that players can almost immediately pick it out when it's hidden in other pieces of music, like the horse riding theme from Breath of the Wild. Hell, even when Skyward Sword's first trailer released, keen-eared gamers noticed the Ballad of the Goddess was really Zelda's lullaby backwards. However, when Ocarina of Time was released, it had only been in one other game. A Link to the Past. Therefore, most of us didn't realize the theme for Sheik, Zelda's alter ego, includes the notes for Zelda's lullaby, just a bit faster and on a harp. Zelda! The Legend of Zelda. Not long after the first game released on the NES, it became common knowledge that entering your name as Zelda on the File Select screen would get you access to the second, harder quest. The most notable change here is that dungeons have had their locations and layouts changed. What probably took longer to register, however, was that for 5 of them, the layouts now formed letters. And by putting them in the proper order, they spelled Zelda. There wasn't really any way to know this unless you looked at their layouts from afar. While it may be a well-known Easter egg now, it still took a few years for players to notice. A permanent solution. The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask features events happening on different days and at different times within its 3-day loop. At midnight on the first day, Link can stop the thief Sakan from making off with an old woman's stock for her bomb shop. The first instinct of most players will probably be to do this with Link's sword, or a standard attack from one of his transformations. However, using different items can cause the bag to explode, taking Sakan with it. This obviously happens with bombs, but also for an arrow, the hook shot, and even Zora Link's boomerang fins. Remember kids, crime doesn't pay. Library books. The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. At a certain point in the Minish Cap, Link must track down a few library books to progress the story, and the sequence has some clever Easter eggs not every player will pick up on. The first is Maggie, the librarian who gives Link the quest. She shares a name with a girl in Wind Waker who falls in love with a moblin, while the top book at Maggie's library is Married to a Moblin. One of the books Link is after is A History of Masks, which was checked out by Mayor Hagen, who has a bit of an obsession with them that unnerves Eslo, reminding us of a certain other mask enthusiast. Finally, after Link shrinks down to climb his way to a new area, a Hylian title can be translated as Triumph Forks, a reference to the helpful fishmen of Wind Waker. Familiar faces at the Lumpy Pumpkin. The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. Nintendo often recycles physical features of NPCs in clever ways, some cases of which are obvious, while others aren't. Not far from Link's home in Skyward Sword is the Lumpy Pumpkin, a rest-stop restaurant for travelers. Inside, both the workers and patrons resemble members of the Twilight Princess resistance group. Owner Palm has the same hairstyle as Telma, while his daughter Kenna, yes, their names together are a play on pumpkin, has similar hair and facial features to Ashai. Old Man Rusta's hair and beard are reminiscent of Aru. Keat is perhaps the easiest to spot, although without glasses, he's a dead ringer for Shad. Pikmin features. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. After tracking down the 3 goddess pearls in Wind Waker, Link takes them to their corresponding statues on the Great Sea, gaining access to the Tower of the Gods. Each taking on the color of their respective goddess, the statues also each have a distinct feature. The shape of the statues, before they explode and reveal their godly form, is somewhat Pikmin-like, but they each share a feature with a Pikmin of a similar color. Din's statue has a red Pikmin's nose, Farore's statue has a yellow Pikmin's pointy ears, and Nehru's statue has the crooked mouth of a blue Pikmin. Even if you had played Pikmin when Wind Waker came out, it's hard to notice. The Kakariko Billboard. The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. A version of Kakariko Village exists in Twilight Princess, but it isn't the only one. Later in the game, Link comes upon the Hidden Village, one of the most fun sequences in the game. After clearing the derelict town of Goons, Link meets Impaz, a member of the Sheikah. Bound by duty to wait for the Messenger of the Heavens, she's named for Impa and one of many Sheikah across the series who have proven their loyalty to Hyrule. It's pretty clear the Hidden Village is meant to be the original Kakariko Village, but one Easter egg you might have missed if you're not the translating type is the billboard, which reads, "Welcome to Old Kakariko in Hylian." Weed Killer, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. The second boss in Wind Waker, Kalidimos, is a gigantic plant fought in the Forbidden Woods. It's far from a tough fight, but there's a way you can make it even easier. Inside the Forest Haven, the area before the dungeon, Link can bottle water with magical properties. It's later used in a side quest where Link must sprinkle some on withered forest saplings to give them life. Funnily enough, water that grants life to the Great Deku Tree is hazardous to Kalidimos. If you take some with you into the fight, once the boss's head is exposed, pouring the water out will instantly kill it. You'd have to be awfully curious to try that. Turning Human, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Whenever magic powder shows up, you can bet it has some alternate uses the average player wouldn't think of. In A Link to the Past, it's mostly used to turn certain enemies into something else, though it also clears bushes to reveal secrets. Although Link is encouraged to sprinkle it on living creatures to see the effects, one might not think to use it on a Kuko, and a very specific one at that. Inside one of the Kakariko Village homes, Link can find a Kuko inside a pot. Sprinkling magic powder on it transforms it into a human woman who is naturally surprised and tells Link off for teasing the other Kukos. Bumbling Servants, The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. One of the more underrated boss fights in the series is Egos du Ikana, but before Link can fight him, he has to deal with his two minions. There are some interesting interactions you can get for a couple of Link's masks. Players may have been curious and tried the Captain's Hat, making Link resemble Ikana's undead ally Captain Kita. However, a mask far removed from this section of the game likely didn't enter the minds of most. The Bremen Mask causes Link to play a marching song, which draws the attention of young animals. Its main use is to get you the bunny hood by aging up some Kukos, but should you use it in the fight with Ikana's guards, they'll join Link in his jaunty march. The Secret Supply Room, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. One might think Ocarina of Time is out of secrets to give right at the climax, but it's the type of game that endlessly surprises you. Ganon's Castle, the game's finale, sees Link working through several obstacles, each based on a sage's medallion, before climbing to the top and taking on the big bad. There's the expected resources to find along the way, but there's also a hidden room full of them. Under the bridge leading upwards is a room full of fairies and business scrubs that you can only tell is there if you use the Lens of Truth. But as that item was distinctly linked to the Shadow Temple, not many thought to use it here. What are some of your favorite Easter eggs and secrets in the series? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great gaming videos every day.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.